you doing?
Yo, come.
We brought the pepper.
Brought the pepper. This is the.
Mom's becoming like what's his face. Props.
You know the story with the guy that said that told him you want to give how much do you love the king? I love you so much. I'll give him my cow. I'll give him my fields. I'll give him my house. I'll give him this. What about the chicken? The chicken I'm not giving. So why you're giving your cow? You're giving your horse? Says the chicken I actually have. So this I actually has.
What's the shot with the pepper?
We'll find out. Okay. That's what we're gonna find out. This is the
Take a bite out of it.
It was here last week.
It was here last week. I thought we were gonna get to it. We did not. Okay. So Zog the Heilige Mishnah says the Mishnah and Daf Yud Amud Aleph says the Mishnah. Very interesting Mishnah. We followed a very interesting Gemara. Okay, the Mishnah Daf Yud Amud Aleph. Chagiga. Until now, we discussed the karbanis. We're going to mention a little bit, go off a little bit of the karbanis, the sacrifices of the Yontif. Although we mention it between the things, we mention the karban as well. But the Gemara, we have a Mishnah here. The Tana, who wrote this, who this Mishnah goes by, had this to say. We know the concept of making a vow, making a neder that I'm going to do so and so, such and such and such. There are many different halachas when it comes to how do you make the vow, how do you have to say it, and how do you have to pronounce it. And we learn it from the way the Yidden when they went into Eretz Yisrael and the Bnei Menashe, the family of the Shevet of Menashe and Reuven, they said it in a certain way. But that's different. That's not what the Gemara is here discussing. The Gemara is discussing the opposite. When you make a neder, when you make a vow, and now you want to annul it, you want to say, okay, you know what, I made a mistake. So we know, already according to halacha, we know that in order to make a vow, you have to go in front of a bezdin of 3. That's what we do at Rosh Hashanah. We make on all our vows. We do it in front of 10. The world actually does it in front of 3. There's enough for them. And if there's not 3, or best scenario is you go in front of a Talmud Chacham, and you sit down and you explain to him what was the reasoning why you made the vow. And now, maybe those reasons don't apply anymore, and therefore, had you been in this situation, would if you made a vow? No, therefore he can say, okay, mutalach, it's fine, you don't have to keep the vow. But where do we learn that this concept exists? Where do we learn that someone makes a vow that he can actually go and say, no, I'm not doing it? In the Torah, when it says that someone that says in that says actually, lo yachel devare, do not make your words mundane. You cannot take your words that he said, I'm going to do such and such, and now say, I'm not going to do it. You can't do that. So how do we know that you can actually go back, regret the words that you said and not do it? So the Tana says here, interesting words. To be mated on that, to annul a vow, it is flying in the air. It's airy words. It's like a castle built in the Gemara. They speak that someone built a whole castle made out of on luft, of nothing. So the concept of annulling a vow flies in the air. What does that mean? It's not holding down to a resource. It's not sourced anywhere. And there's absolutely nowhere that can find a source to say that annulling a vow is allowed. Why do we allow to annul a vow? That's a different argument. We're not going to discuss it here. But this Tana and this Mishnah says the fact that we are allowed to annul a vow has no source in the Torah. Or it's poidechem ba'av. It means it is flying around. It has some kind of connection, but it's very difficult to come down to this earth because it's so lofty, such airy, such empty words. And the Gemara you're going to see the Gemara bring 4, 5, 6 opinions that says, what are you talking about? We have clear psukim that you have where to rely on. So, now I go, that's about Nadal making vows. Hilcha Shabbos, the halachas of Shabbos, or Chagigois, the Kalban Chagiga that we discussed until now. Veha Me'ilois, if someone uses or misuses something that's a holy object that was sanctified to use in Beis Hamikdash, or money that was sanctified to be used in Beis Hamikdash, if someone misuses that, that's called Me'ilah. So the halachas of Shabbos, Chagigas in Me'ilah, Hareihem keharorim hatluyim b'sayla. These are like mountains that are hanging on to thin, to strands of hair. Mashal says here that it's interesting. It doesn't say like a mountain that's attached to a piece of hair. It's mountains that attach to a piece of hair. So it says, imagine one hair hanging, and on each end of the hair is a mountain. That's how heavy it is versus what it's relying on, what's it being suspended on. What does that mean? It means that shehin mikamut, there are very few psukim that discuss Shabbos, discuss Chagiga, and discuss the concept of Me'ilah, and Valachas Mubas, there's many halachas. So before we even go, the Gemara is going to ask right away, what are you talking about? Shabbos we have psukim, Masham B'nai Sol Shabbos, we have psukim, the Eibush telling that we have to watch, we have to keep we learn from the Mishkan and all these different things. The Gemara is going to ask, what does it mean that it's hanging on here? Why is it hanging here? So here, the difference is before we said it's flying, it's not being held down to nothing. Here, it's already being attached to something. It's being held on by a hair. It's not a lot, but it's something. Now, hadinin, when it comes to monetary disputes, veho avoidos, and the avoid in the Beis Hamikdash, serving Hashem, hataharas v'atumas. When you serve Hashem, you have to be toid, you have to be pure, v'atumas, and the concept of becoming impure. How you become impure? How do you get out of the impurity and become pure? Ve'aloyes, and forbidden relationships. Yesh lahan Maseches Chagiga. Not only you can find it very clear in the Psukim that tells you very clear who you're not allowed to have a relationship with, or how you become Tameh and how you become Toil, but there's a lot of halachas, but the Psukim are all there to back it up. The hein gufa Torah. These are the essentials. These are the basic concepts of the Torah. The fact that the moral code between you and a human being. This is the halachas of the monetary disputes, and the moral code between yourself, living the right way with hadoyas, and the fact of serving Hashem. These are the basics of the Torah. This is essential as the Torah, and the psukim, enough verses in the Torah to back up these halachas. Tanya. Now we said these vows, and the other have nothing to rely on. There's no psukim to back it up. Tanya Ablezer says, talking number one. Ablezer is number one. What are you talking about? There is something you can rely on this. It says in a pasuk. It says twice in the Torah about making a vow. One time it says it about making a vow your own worth, and one time it says about one second. The second time is generally make a vow to become a nazir. So it says over there twice. It says the word kiyafli. Yafli means to express explicitly what you're doing. So it says kiyafli and it says kiyafli again. Same thing twice. Once in bamidbar or yikla and once in bamidbar. So it says shtepam achas haflo leisa achas haflo leheta. One time it is coming to explain how that you have explicitly you're putting yourself in a situation where you take something upon yourself that you're not going to do, or something that you're going to do. V'achafal leheta means to annul the vow. So one kiyafli comes to tell you that you could make a vow, and one kiyafli is telling you that you can annul the vow. So the Blazer says it's very simple. Why does the Mishnah say there's nothing to rely on? There's a pasuk here and a pasuk there, and that's it. That's number one. Next, Rabbi Yeshua, the second Amar says, Yeshlam Amash Moichu. What are you talking about, Tana? You say you can't rely on anything. There's something. Shenema. We say it every Friday night by davening by Ma'ariv. We say over there by Ma'ariv, the first Luchan Ananon. It says in the bottom, the Eibush speaks about Yidden going around in the desert, and the Eibush says the Yidden are walking around. They don't know my ways, and then the Eibush says, Asher nishbati be'api. In my anger, I swore, I made a vow. If they will ever reach their destiny of to restful destiny. At the end, we see that although the Eibishter did it in anger, the Yidden ended up going through it himself. So the Eibishter swore, but that he didn't keep it up. So it says, "Asher nishbati bi'api, be'api nishbati." In my anger, I made a shvua v'chazarti bi. Once I, Kaviyachol was saying with the Eibishter, once the Eibishter calmed down, the Eibishter said, "Okay, I'm sorry. Let's go back. I made a shavua. I swore that the Yidden are not going to go into the soul. I'm taking it back. V'chazarti. So Beshua says from Tehillim we can see that. Rabbi Yitzchak says, there's another proof that you can go back on a vow shenema. It says in the pasuk, Kol nediv leiv. It says in the Mishkan, the Eibishter Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Yidden that the Eibishter said that everyone should torim u'tumah Hashem. Everyone should donate a donation to the Eibishter. So that's a mitzvah you have to take upon yourself to donate. And the pasuk says, an interesting thing, kol adiv liboy. If your heart is still in that mode of donation, that your heart wants to do the donation, then you give it. What if the heart doesn't want anymore? You don't have to give. So that's what Rabbi Yitzchak is saying. Kol adiv liboy. When you're still wanting to give, then you give. If you don't want to give anymore, you can go to a Talmud Chacham and say, I wanted to give, now things changed, I can't. Hanani ben Achi, Rabbi Shua, Hanani the brother of Rabbi Shua says, Yesh lan mashis moichel, there's something I can online, Shenema, it says in Pasuk, this is, I think, in Kuf Yutes in Tehillim, Nishbati, the Eibusha says, I swore about something, the David Melech said that I swore to keep the mitzvahs. I swore, and I'll do it. One second, if you swore, you have to keep it. So why does it say, I swore and I kept it? To tell you that even though I made a vow, I swore to keep, I made a shavua to keep the mitzvahs, there is a possibility for me not to keep the mitzvahs. There's a possibility for me to say that I'm not going to do it. Why? Because you can annul your vow. Okay, so we have already 4. Rabbi Lazar says, Kiyafli. Yeshua says, it says, Nishbati be'api, my anger, I made this vow. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Kol nediv leif, as long as your heart is still in that nedivus, you want to donate, and once you don't, you don't. Rabbi Yeshua says, because he said that I swore and I kept it, which means that it's a concept of swearing and not keeping it. Why? Because he can annul. Shmuel taught this number. This is the 5th opinion, this 5th going rebuttal to the Mishnah. If I would have been with those great Talmidei Chachamim of the previous generation, Amrilu, I would have told them, Didi, I have better proof than all of you. My proof, my pasuk, my way of rebutting what the Mishnah is saying is better than all you. Shenemar, it says in pasuk clearly, I'm not bringing Gzera Shava. I'm saying when it speaks about making a vow, it says there, Loy Yachel Devada. I cannot make my words mundane. I cannot take it away. What does that mean? That a person that makes the vow, he cannot take his words back, but he can go to someone else. Who Eina Moichel? He's the one that cannot say that I don't want to keep that vow. But others can say that he can take it away. So here we see a clear pasuk that he cannot annul the vow. Someone else can annul the vow for him. From here we have clear proof that that it's clearly that you're allowed to annul a vow. And comes Rava comes and says, Lechulot, he's right. When Rav Yudah Mashmuel said that mine is better than yours, my going back against the Mishnah is better than yours, Rav said, you're right. Lekulu Isla Pilcha, everyone else that we mentioned before, Isla Pilcha, I can ask on their proof. Leval Mid Shmuel, besides Shmuel, he brings such strong, good proof that I cannot knock it down. This less Pilcha, I cannot knock it down. Even Rabbi Lazar, what did Rabbi Lazar say? He says that we have 2 psukim, Kiyafli. It says Kiyafli by someone that wants to give money his own worth, and it says Kiyafli by Nazar. We say one is for making the nether, one is for taking down the nether. So the Rava says, no, maybe one is for making the nether, and one is to tell you that when you make the nether, you have to say clear. The word Kiyafli means that I am clearly saying the words that I'm going to be making a nether. Maybe he goes, Abelazar agrees to the words of Yehuda that said in the name of Tafin. What did it say? The story over there is that 2 people were sitting, the Uvain and Shimon were sitting next to each other, and they see a third person. Yehuda is walking, Levi is walking towards them. So the Uvain turns to Shimon and says, I am going to be a Nazir, just like the guy that's coming is a Nazir. So Shimon says, you know what? I am going to be a Nazir, just like the guy that's coming is not a Nazir. Then that guy Levi shows up and they ask him, tell me, are you a Nazir? Because now I have to know who's going to be the Nazir, who's going to become a Nazir. So it doesn't make a difference what he tells them. The halacha is that both of them are not Nazir. They don't become Nazir. And why? Because in order to become a Nazir, you have to very clearly say that I'm a Nazir. If you're relying on something that may be true or maybe not true, that's nothing. the Uven that told Shimon, I'm going to be a Nazir, just like that guy's a Nazir. He wasn't for sure, 100% for sure that he was a Nazir. And the same thing also, Shimon and told him, I'm going to be a Nazir. It's not 100% clear. The word kiyafli means you have to very clearly know what you're doing and very clearly say what you're saying. So maybe the Rava says, maybe the reason the Torah says kiyafli once is to tell us that he can do the neder. The second kiyafli is that you have to say it very clearly. So that's why how he knocks down Rabbi Elazar's question. So next we have Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua said that Asher nishbati biyapi, that in my anger I made a shvua, and I now that I'm not angry anymore, I'm taking it back. So he says, even Rabbi Yeshua, maybe this is what the Eibush is saying. Be'api nishbati, yes. He doesn't say in the pasuk that I went back. It says in the pasuk, I was angry, I made a shvua that they will not go in that soul. But the truth is,
While I was angry.
but the truth is, the Doid Hamidbar, the generation of the desert, the ones that went with the spies and made the whole thing, they actually didn't go to that soul. So the Eibush never went back on the shvua. I didn't go back. I didn't go back on that shvua. And Hashal says maybe we're talking about what was it, Taisus? Yeah, Taisus says that maybe it's talking about something else. It's talking about whether the people that died in the midbar, when it comes to Imivoy Menachasi, what kind of rest and peace are we talking about? Going to Olam Haba, going to world to come. So there's an opinion, we learned in the Chelek, there's an opinion that says that the doesn't have Olam Haba, but everyone agrees that they do have Olam Haba. That even though they died in the midbar for doing something so going against the Eibush, that is still, they have Olam Haba. So according to that, maybe what it means is the Eibush first made a Shavua. The question would be the Eibush first made a Shavua that they shouldn't go to Olam Haba, and now the Eibush went back. And here, it would mean that they no, the Eibush doesn't take them in. So anyways, it could be that Asher Nishbati B'Yapi means that I made my vow when I was angry, but I did not go back. So it's not proof. It doesn't say clearly in the pasuk that he went back. So that's knocking down the Shuas. Even Rabbi Yitzchak, what did Rabbi Yitzchak say? Rabbi Yitzchak said, "Koilin divleif," that once your heart is still in that donation mode. Dilma la fukim in Shmuel. Maybe the reason that Rabbi Yitzchak is saying that when your heart wants to donate. Why is the pasuk saying that? Because he's going against what the Shmuel is saying. Shmuel says that when someone wants to donate something, he has to say with his words that he's donating it. If he just thinks it, nothing happens. And maybe Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion is going to be that no, once in your mind you made up to donate, you can't go back. And that's why it says Kol Nidiv Leiv, even though it's only in my heart, I didn't say it with my words, I still have to do it. So maybe that's what it is saying. Even though Yitzchak didn't focus on Shmuel said, Shmuel said that if you decide to donate something, you have to say it out loud. And Yitzchak says, no, you don't have to say it loud. Even though he didn't say it with he didn't cross his lips, he still has to keep his vow, or still has to keep his donation. The last one we had was Hanani ben Achi Rabbi Yeshua. Hanani, here it says the son of the brother of Rabbi Yeshua. What did he say? He said, Nishbati v'akayemo, that the David Melech made a shvua that I'm going to keep it. And when we said, why do you have to say it? If you made a shvua, then you have to keep it. From here is proof that sometimes you can make a shvua, you can vow something and not keep it. Why? Because you can annul it. So it says, maybe he goes according to Rav Gidla Marav. How do we know that there's a concept of not saying an extra shvua? You don't just not make a shvua, a swear just stam. So, but how do we know that you're allowed to make a shvua in order to make a mitzvah? How do we know that we're allowed to make a shvua just in order to do a mitzvah? And what would it do? It would help me be more careful about the mitzvah, do it better, do it faster. The pasuk says that I made a shvua to be mekayim the Eibushal's mitzvahs. So maybe that's what the pasuk means, and there's no proof from here to say that just I made a shvua and I kept it, which means I can make a shvua and not keep it. Maybe the reason I'm saying this because I want to be more careful. I want to make the shvua better, faster, and that's what the pasuk's talking about. Nothing talking about that I made a shvua and I'm not keeping it. So
You
basically,
make the shvur just like to show how much you love.
yeah, and that you're really serious about it and really going to do it. So that's what the that's what the Dava is. How the Dava is knocking down all the different opinions, all the different questions that the people asked on the Mishnah. But the last one, he said, the last one from Amar Avidah Shmuel, it says this I cannot knock down. Elo the Shmuel les lapircha Shmuel I cannot knock down his words. Shen Oma I cannot knock down his words because his very clear. It says in the Torah, Lo yachal devada, you cannot make your words more than you cannot make them annul it. He cannot do it, but someone else could. So this is what people say. Tova chada palpalta, one good sharp pepper is better than malitzana de kli, is better than a whole basket full of squash.
There it is.
So that's it. That's the pepper. I don't have squash at home, so
But is that a hot pepper? It doesn't look like a hot pepper.
I know. You want to try? You want to try? Slice it later on and try it. So one hot pepper does more than a whole bucket full of squash.
Give it to Meir for Shabbos. You're not listening to Kiddush.
Yeah. So here's so the Mishnah basically is saying,
It's not from our house.
huh?
It's not from us.
What?
Pepper's not from us.
It's not from us. No. It's still found in the fridge from like 3 weeks ago. Here, Schultz fridge. So the Mishnah again. The Mishnah had the Tana. The Mishnah says when it comes to annulling vows, there's nothing to rely on. We had all these questions. Lava comes and knocks down most of them. The last one it leaves. So if the last one sticks, so why is the Tana?
The Mishnah.
Why is the Tana not agreeing to it? The Tana says there's nothing to rely on. Even according to Lava that knocks down all these opinions, the last one sticks. Why is it not saying? So the Marsha explains. Marsha says at the end of the day, it doesn't say clearly in the pasuk that you can annul a vow. It says it from something that it says you can annul a vow. So we learn from here you can, someone else could, but it doesn't say clearly on the pasuk. But when you come to annul a vow, this is how you do it. There's no such thing. Therefore, the Tana says, although yes, it's flying, it's not in outer space. It's not totally. It's just flying. The only way for us to learn this maybe by this pasuk, which is not very strong. Okay, the next thing the Mishnah says.
I don't understand how that's matavach. The Mishnah says there's nothing.
It's not matavach. No, the Mishnah says there's nothing to rely on. The Gemara brings 5 questions. 5 different people have a question and said, "There's a pasuk here." So the other knocks down 4 of them, and it says last one, no, we can't knock down because the last one is a pasuk. It says lo yachal vadei. The person that makes the vow cannot annul it, but which means he cannot annul his vow, someone else could. Okay? So the Masha explains that even that is not very strong. According to that, even that is not very strong. Why? Because it doesn't say clearly in the pasuk or Gzera Shava, whatever it is, doesn't say clearly. It says because it says this, we learn the other way. That's what the Masha explains. Zak di Gemara weiter. So in the Mishnah we mentioned the next things. What did we mention? We mentioned Hilchas Shabbos Chagiga Me'ilos, that the halachas of Shabbos are like mountains that are very heavy. They're hanging on a strand of hair. Why? Because there's a few psukim and a lot of halachas. And the question really is, what are you talking about? The Torah speaks. It says already in Bereshis that the Eibishter rests. Okay, we learned some halachas maybe from there. Then the Eibishter speaks in Shmois, and we know by the Mishkan, when the Eibishter built the Mishkan, Moshe built the Mishkan, we learned all these halachas. We learned so many halachas. We speak about it in the Aseret Dimash. It says about Shabbos. Shom b'nei Yisrael Shabbos. It's all these psukim. Fertig mal Akasha Azim. Hilchas Shabbos. So 6 lines from the bottom and Daf Yud Amud Aleph. Hilchas Shabbos. It's very clear. There's a lot of psukim that speaks about Shabbos. And no, the Mishnah is talking about something else. We're talking about certain halachas that are not written. They're not only not written, they're so hidden. Therefore, they're called a mountain. There's so many halachas, but they're hanging on a piece of on a hair. It's going to according to Rab Abba. The Abba said, "Achoifa guma b'Shabbos." If someone there's a halacha that if you do a malacha, you do a certain thing on Shabbos, but you don't need the actual thing. And the Gemara here brings the example of someone digging a pit. But he's not digging a pit because he wants to dig a pit. He's digging a pit because he needs a sand for something. So he's digging a pit, and then he uses the sand to something else. At the end, he built something. He built a pit. So you're not allowed to build. Boine is annul halachas. Building is one of the things in Shabbos. So it says, the halacha is paton. You're not chayiv on making the pit because that's not what you had in mind. It's called Maseches Chagiga. In the Mishkan, we had this concept that the Torah said that the entire Mishkan was built Maseches Chagiga. It was very thoughtful, a very thought after process. They had to think about it. It was very. They had to put themselves into making the Mishkan. And from the Mishkan itself, we learn a lot of the halachas of Shabbos. So we learn that when are you chayev, when you make something on Shabbos, when you actually intend to do the thing that you're doing. You're digging the pit because you want to dig the pit. But here, he dug the pit not because he wanted to dig the pit. He dug the pit because he wanted to stand. So such a malacha is patel. So he says, such a halacha, it doesn't say clearly in the Mishnah. It doesn't say clear in the Torah. The Torah doesn't speak about someone digging a pit and opening and closing it on Shabbos. So that is something that has a lot of halachas and a lot of things, and is really no psukim about. Four lines of Nam. Someone digs a pit. Or he makes a what's it called, a furrow. And he doesn't need he only needs a sand. He doesn't actually need a pit. He's not chayev because of digging a pit. Keman. So the Gemara just goes on the side and says there's a machlokes about this Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda. So he says this goes according to Reb Shimon, the malacha, you don't need the actual pit. You don't need the actual thing. It's potter. The Gemara says actually no. I feel Reb Yehuda. Even Reb Yehuda is going to agree here. Why? Because the machlokes he has with Reb Shimon in Shabbos is about if the person is doing something, he doesn't want to do it, but in the same time as he's doing it, he's fixing something. I don't know, for example, what the example over there is. But let's say he's doing something. He doesn't need that. He needs something else done. But while he's doing, to get to this goal, he fixes something. So Rabbi Shimon says he's spot. Rabbi Yehuda says it's chayev. But here, making a pit in your backyard is ruining the backyard. Anyways, according to both Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, if you do this type of thing, you are going to be pater. And this is something that is not clearly written in the Torah. And the Gemara is going to ask, what does it mean that such a halacha is mounted hanging on a piece of hair? Maseches Chagiga, that the Torah only said the only things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos is Maseches Chagiga. When you put your mind to it, when you want to do that thing, but that concept of making a malacha, a Maseches Chagiga, doesn't say clearly in the Torah. It says about the Mishkan. Like I said before, it says about the Mishkan. The Mishkan says everything in the Mishkan was done. Maseches Chagiga. It says Chodesh v'Choshev. It says that the Betzalel and what's his name? Yeah. So they were doing it, and they knew what to do. And in the same place, we learned the Lamates Malachas. We learned from the Mishkan, because by the Mishkan it says that even though there's a mitzvah building the Mishkan, on Shabbos you're not supposed to do it. So we learned from here all the different things that they did in Mishkan. We learned that all these things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, including Maseches Chagiga. So it doesn't say clearly in the Torah Maseches Chagiga. Maseches Chagiga, it says about the Mishkan, doesn't even say about Shabbos. And we learn it because of Lamates Malachas, because Eibush said don't do the Malachas there. So it's not clear. That's why it's called that it's suspended. The mountains are suspended by a piece of hair.
Now, if we would have had a Gzeder Shava, if we would have had any of the...
Then it's not...
then it's much stronger.
Then it's not Hannah string, then it's a strong thing. Second one, Chagigos.
That's why you put it. It's still awesome to do it.
Yeah. Potter also. Yeah, you're not allowed to do it, but it's...
If you did it, you put
yeah. You're not going to be in Kalbanis. Chagigos. The Mishnah says also Chagigos. The Kalban Chagiga, it doesn't say clear that you have to bring Kalban Chagiga. So really, we just spend pages... Which is the Gemara is almost saying that all this ink was wasted almost. We talked about Chagiga. We said a pasuk. There's a clear pasuk that you should be festive. You should celebrate this festival with a kalban. It means a kalban Chagiga. What do you mean that it's a mountain that's suspended on a piece of hair? That means there's no pasuk. There's no clear pasuk. The Mishnah said that these halachas are not clearly written in the Torah. That's why it's called a mountain suspended in hair. So sagt the Gemara, Michta Ksivon, it says clearly, Chagoysim Oisai. And for the Gemara, let's say, no. The Kedam have Papa Abaya. Papa told Abaya, Mimai da Hai Chagoysim Oisai, Chag Lashem, Zvicha. How do you know that when it says in Pasuk, Chagoysim Oisai? that it means bringing a sacrifice, bringing a korban. Maybe v'chagoysim. What does chag mean? It means a festival. Maybe it means to be festive. Whatever it means, eating, drinking, but it doesn't mean to bring a korban. Okay, so the Mishnah says there's no pasuk. The Papa says why is there no pasuk? Because v'chagoysim oisoi means that the Gemara asks chagoysim. There's a pasuk chagoysim oisoi. The Papa says no. V'chagoysim oisoi means just being festive. Okay, so now there's no pasuk. So that's why it says that it's like a mountain hanging on. Here is no clear pasuk that you have to bring a korban. The Chum later said that you have to bring a korban. That's what a pasuk means, but it's not clear. Dilma, maybe the Torah says, go have a good time. If that's the case, you're saying that any time it says in Torah, the word chag, it doesn't mean a korban. Let me ask you. Moshe Rabbeinu went to Pale and told Pale that, hey, listen, the Eibusha told me, God told me, got to take out the Eden from Egypt. Why? Because the Eibusha told me that take them out, and they should do a Chagiga in the midbar. Hachinami the Chaygo, the Ksiva Chaygo the midbar. Hachinami the Chaygo Chago. Maybe the Eibusha just want them to have a good party in the midbar. That's what Eibusha had in mind. And if you would say Hachinami, yes, the Eibusha did not intend them to bring a korban. The Eibusha wanted them to have a good time, to have a festival. But in the same dialogue that Moshe Rabbeinu had with Paloi, Moshe Rabbeinu argues with Paloi, and Paloi says no. Who is Hashem? And back and forth. And Moshe Rabbeinu finishes off with him and says, "Look, we're going to go out. Not only we're going to go out, you are going to give us the tools to do this festival. We want to go." The Eibusha said, "Make a festival. You are going to give us the tools. What tools? What does it say?" It says, "Gam ato titem be'edeinu zvachim ve'oilos." You are going to give into our hands korbanos, sacrifices. So here we see very clear the chagoisu means the ve'yochaygoli v'chagoisu means a korban. So going back to the Mishnah says there is no clear pasuk that you have to bring a korban chagiga. It's not true. V'chagoisu moisim means a korban. You can ask about that it means making a festival. No, we see from by Moshe Rabbeinu with Pali that it means a korban. So Gemara, no, Dilma Achkama. This is what it means by Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why the Mishnah says there's no clear pasuk. Dilma Achkama. That's what it says. Yes, go out of Egypt, have a good time, shecht the animals and eat it, ichlo v'shasei, eat and drink v'choygo chaga, and just be happy and have a festival. Come on with me with the Eibusha. I'm going to be happy that you're out of slavery. Maybe that's not what Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Pala to do. So it can't be. Why? When the Eibusha speaks about the kabbanos over there, it says, the fat of that chag should not stay overnight. Now, festivals, if you eat a lot of food, it's gonna stay much longer than overnight. But the concept of having fat only exists by a korban. We said also, by the way, that the korban chagiga has to be an animal, not a bird. Why? Because it says chelav chagi, that the animal has to have fat. A bird doesn't have any fat in it. So we see here, from this pasuk, we see that the Eibusha tells the Yidden that when you bring this korban, don't let the chelav, don't let the fats stay overnight. You have to burn it right away. Have to burn it right away. So here we see that this is a korban. So again, we're going back to the Mishnah. Mishnah is saying that there is no pasuk that you have to bring a korban chagiga, and the Gemara says v'chagoysim oisoi is a korban, and we're staying with it now because chelav chagi says it's very clear that the chag means a korban. Which festival has fat? Does a festival have fats? There's no fats that you have to not leave overnight. So obviously we're talking about a korban, and if chagoysim is a korban, then why is the Mishnah saying that there's no pasuk?
Well, this is all the raya that.
This is going back and forth. I printed something up, but I forgot to bring it. It's going back and forth. The Mishnah says there's no pasuk. The Gemara asks, what are you talking about? Chagoysim oiseh, it is a pasuk. And the Papa says, no, chagoysim oiseh could mean just have a party. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? By Moshe and Padre, we see very clear. It says v'choygu that he said he's going to give v'oilas. So the Gemara says no, maybe that's not true. Maybe Moshe Rabbeinu, when he said zvach moilas, it means the Eibusha told him take out animals, shecht it and eat it and be happy. So the Gemara says that can't be because the Eibush said, do not let any fats be overnight. And if it's just a party, what kind of fat are we talking about? So we're talking about a kalban. If we're talking about a kalban, then chagoisim means a kalban. Then why is the Mishnah saying that there's no pasuk that you have to bring a kalban? So it's going back. So the Gemara comes to a different answer. Maybe this is what the Torah is saying. If you bring a kalban on Yontif, then you're not allowed to let the fat stay overnight. Only a kalban that you bring on Yontif. You don't have to bring a kalban on Yontif. If you bring a kalban on Yontif, then don't let the fat stay overnight. Maybe that's what he's saying. But but again, it doesn't say clearly that you have to bring a kalban. If that's the case, habab is man chag. If you bring a kalban in Yontif, then you don't have to. Then you have to burn the fats. Which means that if you bring any kalban throughout the year, you're allowed to let the fat stay overnight. It says a clear pasuk that the fats can only be across the board or the whole year. It has to be taken care of the first night. So again, according to this last thing that we basically said that it can't be talking about just making a party. It has to be talking about a kalban. And if that's the case, going all the way back up, chagoisim oisa means a kalban. And if chagoisim oisa means a kalban, why is the Mishnah saying that there's no pasuk that you have to bring a kalban chagiga? That's where we are at right now. So the Gemara says weiter, going back and forth again. Dilma י.א-י hava mina hahu le'esa. If the Torah is saying, the Torah says somewhere else that you have to burn the fats overnight. Maybe when the Torah says that, it says there's a mitzvah to burn the fats overnight. If you don't do it, you're not over alav, you're not going against the prohibition. You just didn't do the mitzvah. So, oopsie. When it says about the fat not being left overnight, there's a mitzvah. It's an essay. If you don't do it, you're not over essay. When it says liyol and chelek chagi, so the whole year, if you don't burn the fat, you didn't do the essay right. But you're not going to get malchus. You weren't over on a prohibition. When it comes Yontif, I'm giving you an additional little thing. What's the additional thing? I'm telling you on Yontif you have to burn it, and if you don't, now you're made an aveda. So maybe that's what the pasuk is saying. And again, this would basically mean that the pasuk doesn't explicitly say that you have to bring a korban. It says that if you bring a korban on Yontif, then you have to burn the fats. And throughout the year, you have to burn the fats. But if you don't do it, you didn't do a mitzvah, but you didn't do an aveda. So if from that pasuk hava mina hu le'eseh. That when it says that the whole night until the morning, that is to tell us that there's a mitzvah's essay to burn the korban. And hai lelav, and the pasuk that speaks about that he shouldn't let the fat of the chagiga stay overnight. That's to tell you that if you don't do it, then you're gonna be over lav. 1 second, the lav. You're saying a lav because of koachina. We have a different pasuk that says it's a lav. It's what does it say? It says a clear pasuk. Don't let any meat and any fat and everything stay overnight. That's a clear lav. Whenever it says the word loy, that means it's a lav.
What was the first pasuk? Call Alayla Adam Baker.
So there was a pasuk liyol and chel chagi. Do not rest. Do not allow the fats to stay overnight. Then there's a pasuk that you have to eat it. Kol alayla Adam Baker. And now we have a third pasuk that says liyolin. So basically, according to what he's saying, technically you would have two lavin. So the Gemara says maybe that's takachu. There's two lavin. V'dilma lava b'shnei lavin v'esen. Maybe the Torah doesn't say clearly that the kalban chagiga has to be brought. It says it means a party, and all the other psukim that you bring, it could all mean a party. When the pasuk says do not let the fat stay overnight, it's coming to tell you that on Yontif you're going to be over an you've been over a lav. If you don't take care of the fats, you're going to be over a lav. The whole year you're also over a lav. So now on Yontif you're going to be over 2 lavin actually. One from Loyolim Nechelev Chagi, and the second one Loyolim Nabasash Disbal Elef. So you're going to be over 2 avedas. Throughout the year you only have 1 aveda. On Yontif you have 2 avedas. And there's also over an Eser that says that you should get rid of it. You should take care of it the first night till the morning. But it doesn't say anywhere that you have to bring a korban. If you bring a korban on Yontif and you don't take care of the fats that first night, you'll have 2 avedas. But it doesn't say clearly, and that is why the Mishnah says that it's like mountains hanging on a piece of hair, because there's no clear pasuk that tells us that you have to bring a korban chagiga. So the Gemara finishes off and says, "Ela asya midba." How do we know? How do we know that we have to bring a korban chagiga? It's a pasuk. Bring a pasuk from midba shava ksiv hache. It says v'choiglu b'midbar. It says by Moshe Rabbeinu. It says that you have to do do a festival in the midbar. How do we know what kind of festival it is? How do we know that's a korban? Ksiv hasam. It says in the pasuk in Amos, an avi, much later. As zvachim or mincha igashtem li b'midbar. Did you bring to me, for me? Did you bring any korbanos? Just like Amos is talking about zvachim, actual korbanos that they brought in the midbar in the desert. So here also, when Moshe Rabbeinu told Padai that I want to take out the Yidden and do a chag, it means bringing a korban. So we have a gzera shava, we have a pasuk that says from Amos we see that v'chogoisem oisai really is a korban. So if that's the case, the Mishnah says it's strong, so it's a good thing. Why is it a mountain? So the Gemara, why is it still considered a mountain hanging on a piece of hair? So and for the Gemara, we do not learn a halacha in Torah from words of Nevi'im. It's not as strong. This would not, even though this is technically a gzera shava, 2 psukim that have the same words, it is not called a gzera shava according to Rashi. It's called a remes. It's called a hint, and hinting is not as strong, and therefore it's called a mountain. So to summarize,
because it's from Amos.
Because of Amos, yeah. So it's a Navi, it's not as strong as a Torah. We can't learn from any halachas from there. So, to summarize, the Mishnah says there is no pasuk that says that you have to bring korban chagiga. The Gemara asks, what are you talking about? There's a pasuk chagoisim oisai. You have to bring korban chagiga. So the Gemara says, no, but chagoisim oisai could mean party, festival. So the Gemara asks, 1 second, what do you mean it's a festival, party? When it says v'choiglu b'midbar, Moshe Rabbeinu told Padai, I have to take out the Yidden to do a festival in the midbar, in the desert. Did he mean just having a party? So the Gemara says yes, that's what he meant. So how can he say that? It says that Moshe Rabbeinu told Padai, what's my festival? I'm going to walk out with animals. Are you going to give me animals to shecht? So the Gemara says no. Maybe it means that the Eibusha says, yo, take out animals so you can have food to eat, but nothing to do with the korban. So the Gemara says, no, it says a pasuk that you should not let the fats of the chag of the korban stay overnight. So we see that a festival doesn't have fats, a korban has fats. So the Gemara says back and forth. The Gemara is trying to say that maybe it's only during Yontif you're not allowed to let the fat stay over. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? As a pasuk says the whole year you're not allowed to. The Gemara stays with that. What the Mishnah is technically saying, that there's no clear pasuk to tell us that we have to bring a korban chagiga. Chagoy does not mean a korban chagiga. It could mean just having a party. All these other psukim is telling us that on Yontif, if you decide to bring a korban chagiga, and you decide to let the fat stay overnight, you will have 3 avedas. You'll have 2 avedas loisasa. You'll be over on 2 things that it says in the Torah not to let the fat stay overnight, and you'll be over an Esther also. You messed up on a mitzvah as well. But it doesn't say clearly, and the Gemara finishes off saying that where do we know that we have to bring a korban chagiga? We have that from Amos. It's a gzera shava midbar. Just like by Amos, it says that the Yidden didn't bring the Eibush to the korbanos in the midbar, and so we have so the same thing also when Moshe Rabbeinu speaks about bringing zvachim in the midbar, it's talking about korbanos. And the Gemara says if that's the case, it's a gzera shava. It's a very strong proof that you have a korban. It's called chagiga. You have a proof from Amos. So the Gemara says that to do a gzera shava from a navi is not as strong, and here it would only be called a remes. It's not strong, and therefore the Mishnah calls it a mountain suspended on a piece of hair. A few minutes. Yeah, we have more. What time is my? Huh? 9:05. Okay, so we have. Something about the Ilois. The Mishnah also said that the halachas of misusing money or objects that were sanctified for the Beis Hamikdash, that also is halachas that are not clearly written in the Torah, and therefore there are mountains suspended by a piece of hair. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? It says very clearly in Pasuk, it says many times that someone does something with holy money or holy objects, and that there's a certain halachas. It says that you have to bring back, and now you have to repay not only the principal, but you have to add a fifth, and you have to bring a kalban. So what are you talking about? There's no pasuk. Why are you saying that it's suspended by a piece of hair? There's a lot of psukim. What is the Mishnah talking about? Like we learned in a different Mishnah, there is a Mishnah. There's a halacha that tells us that if someone makes a messenger to do something for him, so if it's a mitzvah, if you're doing a mitzvah, then the shliach, then the mitzvah will be counted for the mashaleach, that's one that tells him to do the mitzvah. The owner tells him, you take $10 and put it in tzedakah. The mitzvah, the owner of the $10 gets the mitzvah. But if a guy tells a shliach, please do an aveda for me, and the guy does it, there's no shlichus d'aveda. There's no concept of shlichus d'aveda. But here, they have an interesting halacha. A guy calls someone over, says, "Come here, take this money. This money is holy money." Maybe he forgot about it. He didn't know that he sanctified. He put this money away for the Beis Hamikdash. He says, "Go buy talis. Go buy something for me. Something just mundane." And the shliach goes and he does it. So here's an interesting halacha. Zad Gemara. If the shliach did what the owner told him, it's an aveda. It's like b'shaygik. Yeah, he didn't want to do it, but he did an aveda. So what did he do? Balabais small. The balabais is the one that has the aveda. He has to pay the principal plus a fifth, a chomesh, and he has to bring a korban. If the balabais tells him, take this money and buy a talis. What if the shliach goes and takes this money and buys a box? He doesn't buy do exactly what the shliach tells him. Now, if he messed up on his shlichus, the aveda is on him. Lo yasa shlichusai shliach mal. Now the shliach is the one that made the aveda, and the shliach is the one that's going to have to pay the principal plus a fifth and bring a korban. This concept doesn't make sense. We know that ein shliach l'dvar aveda. There is no such thing that someone makes a messenger to do an aveda. So even if the balabayis tells the shliach go buy a talis, and the guy does it, technically the one that made the aveda should be the shliach. So the Gemara asks like this: if we did do correctly, they did do his shlichus. Amay mol, why is the balabas? Why is the original owner? Why does he have the aveda? And if you say no, but who is going to pay? You're going to say the shliach is the one that made the aveda, but the owner is going to have to pay the principal and the fifth. This doesn't make sense. This entire halacha doesn't make sense from the get-go. That's what the Gemara is trying to bring out. And therefore, the halacha is, yes, if a balabas makes a shliach to misuse funds of hegdesh, misuse holy money or a holy object, if he does it just like the balabas told him to, the balabas is going to be chayiv, the shliach is going to be pata. And why is that? The Gemara doesn't discuss here, but this is what the Mishnah is saying, that this is mountains hanging on a piece of hair, because it's not clear. It's not clearly written. This is what it says, that there are mountains suspended by a piece of hair. So Rava says, that doesn't make sense. Maybe over there it's different. We have in Teruma, there's a very clear pasuk that says that Terimu ken atem, that you can sanctify something for Teruma, and the Torah learns that atem means that not only you, but there's also a concept of shlichus. So the Gemara asks over there, but Teruma we have the word chet. And here we have, by Me'ilah, we have the word Chet. So we can make a Gzera Shava. Just like here it says sinning, over there it says sinning. We're going to make a Gzera Shava. Just like by Tluma, there's the concept of Shlichus. By Me'ilah, there's a concept of Shlichus. And here it's going to be different than any other place. Usually we say, Ein Shliach L'Dvar Aveda. There's no Shliach for an Aveda. But because we have a Gzera Shava from Me'ilah, from Tumah to Me'ilah, there's going to be exception to the rule. By Me'ilah, if you make an Aveda, yes, there is a Shlichus. So that's not, again, it's not a mountain that's suspended in here. Yes, there's a Gzera Shava that tells us that when it comes to Me'ilah, you're making an Aveda, yes, there is Shlichus. We learn Me'ilah from Tumah. Me'ilah is also, even though it's L'Dvar Aveda, there's still Shliach. What's the Mishnah talking about when it says that there's in the concept of Me'ilah, which is something that's suspended by hair? This is what we're talking about. Niskal Balabais. These halachas get more interesting as we go. So the owner calls over the guy and says, "Here, take $100 and buy a talis with it." As the guy walked out, before he was able to buy the object, the owner remembers, "Oh, this is holy money. This is hekdesh money. I regret sending him." But I didn't call him back. The guy was already too far gone. I didn't call him back. The shliach goes and buys it. Now the halacha changed. The owner had chalat. The owner regretted sending. So he is not chayiv. Not a shliach is chayiv. Niska balabais. If the balabais remember that it's holy money. Niska shliach. The shliach didn't know about it. Shliach mol. Not a shliach is chayiv. Fighting Gemara. It's an interesting lashon the Gemara uses here. Shliach anya my covenant. This poor shliach. This poor. What did he do? He didn't know. The guy sent him. He decided he's doing him a favor. This poor guy. The Gemara says shliach anya. This poor shliach my covenant. So it says the halacha is such that if the owner remembers, as when the guy left, he remembers, the shliach has the whole thing. He has to pay the chaimish and the extra. But where's the source? That is what the Mishnah is saying. These are mountains that are suspended by a strand of hair.
He said, don't do anybody a favor.
My kushim. No, even that case we can still find find proof. Dilma, if someone, I have $100 and I put these $100 away to do something holy, to buy a korban, to whatever in Beis Hamikdash, and I forget. I used $100 for something else. I forgot, and I used it. B'shaygik, totally b'shaygik. I have to bring a korban, and I have to pay the chaimish. That's the way to make up the saveda. So, very clearly, if I had known that these $100 are holy, I would have not used it. I would have not used this money. So the same thing here also by the shliach, even though but with the balabas, with the shliach, the balabas remembered that even though the shliach doesn't know and it's not his fault, but it's just like a regular guy that uses his money by mistake. Just like a regular guy uses his money by mistake, we're not punishing him. This is the way you can make up the aveda they made. I'm giving you a chance to make up. That's the whole concept of Me'ilah. I'm giving you a way to make it up. So the shliach also, it's not punishing him. He's making it up. So what's the question? It's not something that's a concept that's suspended by here. No, it's just like when you make an aveda b'shoigik, you make up the aveda. You make it up. It's just like someone that uses money that was put away for something holy and then uses it for something mundane. Then what is the Mishnah talking about? If someone took a rock, stone, or a beam that was put aside for hegdash, for the Beis Hamikdash, if he just picked it up and moved it around, he didn't do it. That's not called milah. That's not called misusing of hegdash funds. What if he picks it up and now gives it to a friend? He gives it to a friend. He misused the funds, and his friend that is now carrying it did not misuse. I understand. Here he picked it up and moved it. Here he picked it up and gave it to someone else. Why here do we say he's going to be chayiv? He's misusing funds, and here we say no. Why when he just moved it he's not, and why when he gave it over to a friend then he is? So such a concept, that's a mountain suspended by here. Mich the mishkal shakla, he took it. Mali hu malachaveda. What difference does it make if he puts it down or he gives it to a friend? That is why it's called Mishnah calls it halal katlum b'sayil. If I think about again, my kushya, what's the problem? Shmuel said, what kind of person are we talking about? Hacha begizba, and with this we're going to finish. Hacha begizba, we're talking about the guy that's in charge of all the items in the Beis Hamikdash. He's in charge of the building material in the Beis Hamikdash, and he was given the stone and the beam to use, to put away. And now if he moves it around, that means he's just putting, even if he moves it to his house, he's just watching it. But if he gives it to a friend, he's basically saying, take it, do whatever. That's why he's chayav. So it's not suspended by a strand of hair. Begizba, we're talking about the treasure, Amasuas la'avne binyan, that these materials were given to him. Askin the cholech, the manach b'shus, whatever, it's in his possession. The day b'shus, it's good. And as soon as he gives it over to someone else, when he hands it over to someone else, that's when he's moil. So the Gemara says, I'm gonna finish next time. All right. As I said,